you can still try to look good to impress someone, but it might be your wife, right? So in that case, it's halal for you to do that, and it's a good intention for you to have. And therefore, you kind of tap into that what otherwise might be a haram intention or not necessarily a good intention, and you kind of transform it into something that is good.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode of the Optimized Muslim podcast, following on from the last podcast on how to maximize your time at the gym by treating it as a library. I was going to include this in that episode, but then I realized it'd probably get too long and the main message of that video would potentially get mixed or lost within the overall video. This one is linked, and again, it's another one that, although I've used the gym example, is by extension it can be used. Is the underlying concept is what I want you to think about and focus on, and this one is about intention. So I think the majority of Muslims, even lay Muslims, know about the importance of intention when it comes to our deen, the importance of making sure you have a correct intention prior to embarking on any deed if you want to get the reward for it. This channel isn't really focused on the religious evidences and proofs for that, because I generally talk about quite well understood and obvious kind of topics and use that as the bedrock for whatever life improvement topic or idea that I'm talking about. So obviously we all know the innamal a'malu bin niyyah narration. Your actions are by their intentions. And there's also a very powerful hadith that I'll try and get up on the screen or link it below about the first 3 people admitted into the hellfire are going to be those who at least outwardly would be assumed to not go into the hellfire by way of what their outward deeds were. One would be a Quran reciter, one would be someone who gave a lot of money to charity, and one would be a martyr. And they'd be kind of questioned on why they did those things, and they would say that they did it for the sake of Allah, but they would be told that no, they did it for a variety of other kind of lower reasons, such as seeking fame or showing off and things like that. So, and then there's also famous stories about how scholars would place importance on this, and anyone who kind of embarks on the whole tazkiyatun nafs, or purification of the nafs, or self-development, spiritual self-development, they come across the importance of it very early on. It's like the foundational topic, like the famous story of Imam Ghazali when he had the highest post in Baghdad, and he started to feel that his intention wasn't correct. So he got up and left in the middle of teaching a session, and it was gone for 10 years. And again, so they're the kind of examples that came off the top of my head, but you already familiar with that. I don't need to go into that in more detail. So this video was linked to the gym and why you should rectify your intention and make sure and constantly revisit it and make sure that it's the correct intention in order for you to be rewarded for this act or deed. So say if it is something that you do consistently, as a Muslim who's into self-development and optimizing different areas of your life, and obviously physical health is a key component of that. I'm assuming you work out relatively regularly, or you go to the gym or home workouts or whatever else, right? Now, it's important that you have the right intention and try to revisit that intention and have it instilled almost every time that you go, so that you guarantee yourself, or inshallah, you guarantee yourself rewards for that action. So again, I like to give the A and B, or Alif and Ba, the Muslim twist example. You have Alif who goes to the gym 90 minutes 5 times a week, and he has the wrong intention, or he's never really thought about the intention, or his intention is just a common kind of shallow, I would say, intention of trying to look good, perhaps even for the opposite gender, or just perhaps trying to look hench and cool to not the opposite gender. But essentially, it's just all about the external, how you would look to other people. And that's basically as deep as it goes. You've got this person 5 times a week. They've been going to the gym, or even 3 times a week for a number of years. And because they're living that lifestyle, or they've never really delved deeper into it, that's it. They don't really get rewarded for that. So if they come back after 5 years and say, yeah, I was going to the gym and I did it to take care of the amana that Allah has given me in terms of my body, okay, you've changed your intention now, 5 years post, but you never had it in your mind, assuming he didn't, obviously, you never had it in your mind for those 5 years. So are you going to get rewarded for it? And then you have the other example of, let's say, B, they go with the intention, a righteous intention for 5 years. So they've been spending the same amount of time at the gym for 5 years, but the difference is night and day in terms of the level of reward, their status, and what they've got in the akhirah, inshallah, as a result of that same effort expended. And it's a key idea and topic that you can apply not to the gym, but just to all areas of your life, if you like, that aren't at least overtly deen-centric kind of issues or topics. Most people, when you think of the gym, they won't think about Islam. But again, as a Muslim, we have the cheat sheet. We have a massive advantage. And I've spoken about this before, in that we don't have to wrestle with the whole notion of meaning and trying to find a deep why behind certain things, because alhamdulillah, everything links back to Allah, and it's very easy to do so. And we have that advantage. There's a reason why, despite material wealth and increases, studies show that depression and other kind of mental illnesses and overall happiness is on the decline, or has been declining in the West, or in countries where there's kind of high material wealth, but also a lack of this spiritual guidance or acceptance. And think about it, the reason for that is they have no deeper meaning, even though people understand that you need deeper meaning to attain fulfillment. You can have success if it's defined by wealth without necessarily being fulfilled. Fulfillment comes through meaning, I would say. And if you don't believe in God, or you don't have this objective notion of having a meaning or having a why, then you start looking for it in silly places. You attach yourself to all these kind of silly movements and put your whole life behind it because it gives you a sense of purpose for the first time in your life, right? So we don't have to worry about that. We have to just link everything back to Allah. So going back to that example, what are some righteous or good intentions for going to the gym and trying to get hench, in inverted commas, which is a kind of a word that we often use a lot? There's many intentions. The primary one is that you take care of your body. You see it as a trust from Allah SWT, and therefore you go to the gym to ensure that you stay in good physical health. And that's obviously linked to diet and all the other things that you do for your health as well in self-development, whether that's optimizing your diet and supplements and all the rest of it. And then obviously there's the one about a strong believer being better than a weak believer. Some scholars also stretch that to mentally strong. So I would say they're the primary kind of religiously aligned intentions that people generally think about when it comes to working out and the gym. But I would say it's more powerful to have multiple intentions linked together and compounded upon each other, and also multiple intentions that take advantage of perhaps that more shallow desire that we have sometimes to impress people. Because it's easy to sit here and say the intentions just purely for the sake of Allah. If you can do that, alhamdulillah, you're in a rare category. But I think for most people, it's good to have multiple reasons that you can pick into whenever required. And I'm not saying that you suddenly stop and go back to the shallow intention of trying to impress people or whatever else. But again, you can use that same underlying idea, but in a more halal or religiously aligned way, in that, for example, you can still try to look good to impress someone, but it might be your wife, right? So in that case, it's halal for you to do that, and it's a good intention for you to have. And therefore, you kind of tap into that, what otherwise might be a haram intention or not necessarily a good intention, and you kind of transform it into something that is good. That's one example. And then another one is like, before I was married, I used to think of things like, one is like your future wife. And even if you don't have someone in your mind, it's just the idea of making sure that you're in good physical health, but also your kind of future kids or family or whatever else, because you want to set a good example. You want to have spent your youth in this way, so that you're in a position to advise your kids, inshallah, if you have them in the future, of how you spent your youth. And therefore, there's no kind of inconsistency between the advice that you gave them. That's like another kind of deep intention that you can have. A lot of you who might be younger and perhaps you're not married, and you're kind of struggling with trying to get the right intention for working out and going to the gym. That's another good halal kind of reason and intention to have. And then there's also the thing about carrying your faith with swagger, or trying to be in the best shape for da'wah purposes in a way. And this one is, I remember speaking to brother Gabriel Ar-Romani about this, about how the influence that you can have from the da'wah perspective on the youth, whether that's Muslim youth, predominantly Muslim youth, because the gym and physique and this kind of sports, they're all topics that naturally young Muslims or young Muslim males are attracted to. So therefore you can tap into that, because if you're someone who's a religious preacher or speaker or influencer, whatever, but you're also in good physical shape that attracts their respect, then you have an advantage when it comes to trying to influence them, or trying to kind of, your ideas have more weight because you're seen as a more respectable figure in their eyes. So that's another intention to have. So again, this is by no means a limited list, exhaustive list. There's a whole variety, but I wanted to get the kind of message across that this is the thought process that we should have, inshallah, when it comes to things like this. It's not just about, yes, I go to the gym because I'm taking care of the body that Allah has given to me, but there's multiple good intentions that we can have, that we can tap into. And each of these intentions, one, it makes sure, or inshallah we hope, by the mercy of Allah, that we're rewarded for that intention and it's sincere. But along with that, you also tap into the kind of neurological strength or benefit of having a strong intention. So this is another kind of deep self-development idea. The reason why they talk about having a strong why. If you have a goal, have a strong why. Constantly reflect back on your why. Why do you want this? How will it help you? The reason they do that is because that gives you like a surge of dopamine or neuroadrenaline that gives you the energy to kind of carry out a certain action. And that's something that we can use when it comes to having these multiple intentions. Because say if you're feeling unmotivated to go to the gym, but then you remind yourself of your why, which is linked to your intention. And say if your why is, I want to be in the best physical shape so that I'm able to take care of my kids and family and defend my family and kind of be good looking for my spouse and these other things. I need to represent Islam. I need to represent a good Muslim man. These kinds of intentions, it'll get you up. It might get you fired up, and you end up performing that action that you might not have otherwise. So again, alhamdulillah, I didn't have this plan, but it seemed to, that's this podcast topic. Again, if you benefited, please like, share, subscribe, and I will see you in the next episode, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم